Hi guys, it's Seat from Warthog Defense. We have an interesting story today. I don't know, have you watched Top Gun Maverick, the newest movie from Tom Cruise? It's very interesting, but it set me back to the 80s, you know, with its music, with its atmosphere, and especially with legacy fighters like F-14 Tomcat. Our story today is similar, it's something like that. It's about the supply of F-18 Hornets to Ukraine from the Australian government. And I wanna say another thing. A lot of you are commenting and are asking from us to make more videos, since we were making 3 videos per day before, and now we are making 1. We will try to keep up the pace. I can't make any promises because we are working very hard right now, but we will try to do that because we are listening to you. Let's see the video.
Have you ever wondered what happens to retired fighter jets? What role can they play in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine? As the world watches the strife unfold in Ukraine, the seemingly dormant F-18 Hornets, serving as silent sentinels at the Williamtown RAAF base since 2021, have become a topic of discussion. Their potential is far from exhausted, especially in a situation where military aid can tip the balance of a conflict. But how feasible is Ukraine's request for these retired warbirds? Let's dive into the journey of Ukraine's request for retired F-18 Hornets. It all began when Ukraine, under intense attacks on its electricity grid, made an appeal for retired F-18 Hornets. The Ukrainian defense officials, in top-level talks with their American counterparts, expressed their desperate need for the 1980s-era F-18 Hornets. They saw these aircraft as a crucial addition to their arsenal in a war that was seeing stalemates on the battlefield and in the US Congress for further funding. The request was not out of the blue. Ukraine was grappling with a severe crisis, its energy infrastructure under relentless assault. The country was pleading with the Albanese government for a regular supply of coal to power its grid, and the retired Hornets seemed like a promising solution to bolster their defenses. The F-18 Hornets are a force to be reckoned with, even though they hail from the 1980s. These fighter jets, known for their versatility and superior combat performance, could potentially turn the tide in Ukraine's favor. Australia had dozens of these retired Hornets, which have been out of service since 2021 and were lying idle at Williamtown RAAF base. Ukraine's defense ministry, aware of the potential of these aircraft, resolved to request Australia's 41 retired Hornets. This wasn't a small ask, given the complicated logistics involved in transferring military aircraft across continents. But the situation was dire, and Ukraine was ready to explore all options. Australia's response was non-committal initially. Defense Minister Richard Marles acknowledged that transferring the aircraft was a complex process, but did not outright reject the idea. Australia remains steadfast in its commitment to support Ukraine's defense against Russia's illegal and immoral war, said a spokesperson for Mr. Marles. Australia was considering what kind of support it could provide to enable Ukraine to end the conflict on its own terms. With dozens of these jets no longer in service in Australia, the request seemed plausible. Ukraine's appeal had begun, and the world was watching carefully to see how the West would respond. Australia, a steadfast supporter of Ukraine, responded to this request with a non-committal stance. The land down under, known for its kangaroos and koalas, found itself in a position of great significance on the global stage. Ukraine's request for fighter jets, specifically the retired F-18 Hornets, was met with a response that was as complex as the situation itself. Australia's Defence Minister, Richard Marles, expressed that the process of transferring the aircraft was complicated. This wasn't a simple handover of keys to a used car. It was about the transfer of military-grade fighter jets, a move that would not only impact the balance of power in the ongoing conflict, but also carry potential repercussions on the international stage. Yet, despite the intricacies of the situation, Australia did not close its doors on Ukraine. Australia remains steadfast in its commitment to support Ukraine's defense against Russia's illegal and immoral war, stated a spokeswoman for Mr. Marles. This statement underlines Australia's dedication to assisting Ukraine in its struggle against the ongoing aggression by Russia, highlighting the nation's commitment to upholding international law and morality. Australia's response was not a denial, but rather a cautious acknowledgement of the complexities involved in the situation. The country continues to work closely with the government of Ukraine, exploring various avenues of support that could potentially enable Ukraine to end this conflict on its own terms. The situation brings to light the multifaceted nature of international politics. It's not just about the physical transfer of machinery, it's about strategizing, forecasting potential implications, and making decisions that respect international law, uphold moral principles, and protect national interests, all while offering support to an ally in need. In this intricate web of diplomacy and strategy, Ukraine's request for the Fa-18 Hornets hangs in the balance. The jets, retired and resting at Williamtown RAF base since 2021, could potentially play a pivotal role in Ukraine's defense strategy. But the decision to transfer them is not a simple one. It's a decision that Australia has to consider cautiously, understanding the potential implications and consequences. While Australia was non-committal, Ukraine remained hopeful. The battle-hardened nation continues to seek support from its allies, hoping that the retired Hornets would soon take to the skies again, this time defending the sovereignty of Ukraine. As the battlefield stalemates continued, so did the negotiations for the Fa-18 Hornets. The discussions between Ukraine and the Albanese government surrounding the supply of these retired fighter jets were far from straightforward. For one, Australia's Defence Minister Richard Marles had, in the past, described the transfer of these aircraft as complicated. When confronted with Ukraine's renewed request, he remained non-committal. Yet, the desire to aid Ukraine in its defense against Russia's illegal and immoral war was clear. Australia, as steadfast as ever, continued to explore ways to support Ukraine in ending this conflict on its own terms. Meanwhile, Ukraine's ambassador to Australia, Vasyl Miroshnichenko, was hard at work. He tirelessly advocated for his homeland's needs, not only for the fighter jets but also for more coal shipments and other military equipment. His urgent appeal underscored the dire situation Ukraine was facing as Russia's relentless attacks threatened the survival of its civilian population. But the negotiations weren't just about what Ukraine needed, they also had to consider the practicalities of transferring these fighter jets. The Hornets had been out of service since 2021, languishing at the Williamtown RAF base in Australia. The logistics of getting them to Ukraine, not to mention ensuring they were in working order, were significant challenges to be addressed. The negotiations also had to navigate the tricky waters of international politics. Ukraine's request for the Hornets came amidst a stalemate in the US Congress over further funding for the war effort. The US had previously turned down Poland's offer to supply Ukraine with its MiG-29 jets, citing concerns for NATO alliance. Would they react differently to Australia's Hornets? And then there was the question of whether these 1980s-era fighter jets were the right fit for Ukraine. The country had already been offered various military equipment from different nations, and the Hornets were just one item on a long list of desired resources. Despite the hurdles, Ukraine's determination to acquire these jets remained undeterred. Fast forward to today, and the fate of Ukraine's request still hangs in the balance. Ukraine's plea for Australia's retired Fa-18 Hornets is met with a complex web of geopolitical considerations and logistical challenges. Despite the hurdles, Ukraine remains undeterred, pressing on with its request, a testament to the country's resilience in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground in Ukraine continues to escalate, with Russian attacks causing significant damage to the country's infrastructure. Amid these dire circumstances, Ukraine's energy ministry has urged residents to conserve power, further highlighting the urgency of the situation. Despite the challenges, Ukraine's resolve remains unbroken. The country continues to push for additional aid, including more Bushmaster armored troop carriers, drones, counter-drone technology, and demining equipment. Among the items on Ukraine's extensive wish list, the F/A-18S remain a top priority. Sadly, the US Congress has recently blocked a fresh tranche of $50 billion in aid, further complicating Ukraine's situation. Despite this setback, Ukraine's pursuit for the retired fighter jets continues unabated. And while the fate of the Fa-18 Hornets hangs in the balance, a broader narrative unfolds. It's a narrative about the critical role of retired military equipment in ongoing conflicts, a narrative about the power of international alliances and the strategic negotiations that underpin them. As we continue to follow this developing story, one thing remains clear. The role of retired fighter jets in ongoing conflicts is a topic worthy of our attention.
I hope you liked this story, and we certainly hope that F-18s will reach Ukraine. Comment, like, subscribe, become a member, and stay strong.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.